Hey Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, doing pretty good. We got last Friday we got a kitten, so now we have a small animal at home that plays around with our son. So quite a lot of fun.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Was it a stray? Is that's how usually people get cats, right? They just show up and then it's like, okay, this is your cat now. Like they just wander onto your doorstep or something. At least that's how I got all my cats.
In here, you almost don't have stray animals, so there's very good system here in that sense. So like, yeah, you can find if someone lost a cat or something like that, but usually there's not something like there is homeless cats or dogs. At least I didn't see any here. And a friend of ours, they have a cat, and she had 3 kittens recently. So she already sold 2 of them, and we reserved one of them for our.
Sold? Is it like a purebred cat? Usually, like you can't give cats away here. Like there's just so many cats. People are like, please take my kittens.
No, there's no issue with that. So it's European short hair, and it was bred with a neighbor's short hair as well. So it's not like expensive cat. Like you just pay nominal amount. Like for instance, in Ukrainian culture, if you gift something for something, right? So let's say you want to gift seeds to grow something in your garden, and if you give it just for free without anything in return, in Ukraine, it's a sign, like culturally, like there is some kind of prejudice that if you don't pay for something at least 1 cent, it won't grow well. So you have to give something in return if someone gives you something of value.
Cool.
And the same applies to home pets as well. So
We have a lot of strays here in America. Like a lot.
yeah, but also America has a lot of land, right? So there's huge territory, and it's much more harder to control.
It is harder to control. There's big efforts to spay and neuter all of the wild cats and everything to try to keep the population down. And yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and Netherlands is a much more smaller country, and mostly it's very densely populated, so it's hard.
Oh yeah, I mean you're pumping water out to make land there. Like you're constantly pumping water out to keep the land you've reclaimed from the ocean. Yeah, it's different, very different.
Yeah, yesterday we actually took a trip to a lake, and on this trip we actually were riding a bicycle path along a canal, and the canal was actually at least 1 meter above. The water level was 1 meter above us when we were riding a bicycle. So it was, like when I'm thinking about global warming, I'm start to considering like maybe it's a wrong choice to go into the Netherlands and stay here because
Yeah,
it's
you
kind of
should buy a
risky,
boat, dude.
But yeah, in general, just the quality of life. Like you can take a bicycle ride anywhere you want. The nature here is amazing. Like
Oh
yesterday,
my God, so many bikes in the Netherlands. People have told me like there's a lot of bikes there, but I didn't really know what a lot of bikes meant until I went there, and I was like, this is way beyond a lot of bikes. This is
yeah, like it's kind of hard to find the parking for your bicycle, when you go somewhere. So in the United States, you probably have car parking issues, right?
yeah, yep. Here,
And here is the bicycle parking issues. So it's a little bit different. Yeah, and another thing as well, like update on the barbecue. So last week, you remember I was doing some barbecue, so I decided to buy a big grill. So right now I was using a small ceramic one, Kamado grill, but now I decided to buy a big one, and it's arriving in a couple of weeks. And then I'm gonna prepare complete Texas style barbecues at home here, as you know, like there's a lot of travel restrictions right now. If I won't come to Texas, Texas will come to me, you know. I will prepare.
I see a lot of Twitter pics of people barbecuing on the weekends. It seems to be everybody's new favorite pastime.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting activity. So let's record an intro then.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Loading the Loop is sponsored by Blackfire.io. I'm Eric Hileman, CEO and co-founder of Mage Mojo Magento Hosting out of New York City. The purpose of this program is to take some of what we've learned over the last 10 years of Magento-specific hosting and evaluate one of our customer stores. We'll share with you what we find in hopes that it may help improve your Magento skills and the performance of your Magento stores. Along with me on this trip is my co-host, Ivan.
Hi, my name is Ivan. I'm Magento consultant, specialized in performance out of the Netherlands. I'm helping with the help of Blackfire. I'm helping review Magento stores of Mage Mojo, and not only Mage Mojo, but we still have a lot of backlog, right, on your side.
We do.
So we're still open to have someone also outside from Mage Mojo having on our show, but the biggest problem right now is that you have to have everything pre-installed. So the easiest way to go with just Mage Mojo customers. So tell us a little bit about the customer, Eric.
Yeah, I'm Garden. It's very popular with, a little bit of food shortages. Not that there was any shortages. The supply chain was always fine, but everybody panic bought. So like the demand is what actually skyrocketed and the shelves were empty. So people were a little bit fearful of that. And so it's a good time to start growing your own vegetables. And it's also springtime and people are at home. So overall, we saw like gardening stores doing really, really well during the pandemic.
Question, how about gardening in Brooklyn?
People do it. People have like terraces or rooftops. Like a lot of buildings will have a shared rooftop. So then they put stuff up there. Yeah. Or a balcony. You'll see a lot of stuff on balconies.
Yes, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Interesting. So let's start profiling, right? Let's start with the homepage. You told before that they have some issues with checkout, right?
Yeah, checkout seems to have some weird random issues. Like sometimes it'll hang, sometimes it'll go through. So that seems like it's an external dependency or something.
So now let's just do a conventional way first. Let's just try to profile a homepage, check first of all if it works. Seems like, like profiling seems like working. However, it was quite fast response. Yeah. I think they're using full page cache. This doesn't work well with Blackfire because this is the standard Magento full page cache, because the number of database queries are not Magento standard behavior. So this is definitely full page cached page. Yeah, for sure. So they don't use varnish, right?
I don't know, actually. If you say they don't, then they don't. I have injected.
Yeah, so we have to do a small trick now. So now we definitely have to click profile everything, because the problem with that one that if I just gonna profile a cached page, it doesn't gonna give us any kind of valuable data, right? So I'm just gonna profile all the requests, and I'm just gonna add some random string at the end of the URL, and then I'm gonna receive the real page render of uncached page.
We see that one a lot. People will load varnish and then they'll send out an email, and the marketing team adds a tracking parameter onto the end of the URL, and it blows
common
through. varnish, and they're like, "Oh my god, why is there such a problem? Why is everything slow? Why is this not holding up?" We're like, "Well, okay, well, we can see in your logs you have these parameters." Oh, that wasn't us. That was the marketing team.
But the problem here, like not that marketing team added the parameter. The problem is that developers didn't configure varnish configuration in order to exclude those parameters from caching a hash. Because in varnish you can remove specific query parameters if they are not related to your cache.
Yeah, but the marketing team didn't tell the developers that they were going to do it.
Okay. Why do we have a post request? This is kind of weird. Yeah. Okay. Let's go into the tools directory right away. Yeah, let's profile a couple of pages. Let's see. Looks like it's not cached right now. Yeah, great. Well, let's scroll down to the page. Seems all fine, but this post request bothers me. Like, what's happening there, we will see soon. So let's actually stop it and let's see what's going on there. Yeah, this is a very bad post request. So first of all, our viewers, if you don't know, post requests usually are not cached by varnish at all, because those are considered always dynamic requests. And here is some kind of a module, PR newsletter pop-up with a controller action index block that does it on every single page. So like you have a regular page and then it does an ajax request in order to load this newsletter pop-up. Instead of integrating this newsletter pop-up as some kind of dynamic component, it just does it very inefficiently. So let's open it up.
Why would they be posting? There's no data going back. Why would they?
Yeah, so this is very interesting thing. Like, why do you post? It's even violation of principles of HTTP, right? So you shouldn't post when you're actually doing a get, right? So there is some layout generation. So basically they just render a block. They even don't have any processing here, as you see. Like all the queries that are happening here are related to just a configuration retrieval. Also, this one is interesting. Like, why the configuration is loaded? Yeah, let's see what's going on in the queries. This is kind of weird. No, seems all fine. Oh, it's just loading all the websites. Okay, great. Then no issue with that. Okay, so the suggestion number one, they need to switch to varnish cache because you already provide varnish on your servers.
For no additional cost, unlike other hosting providers.
Yeah, at no additional cost, and it doesn't make sense to trigger your FPM when you can use just varnish right away without hitting your dynamic servers at all. So this is kind of weird that they don't use it, but they use the standard Magento developer style full page cache, because the one that is used as internal full page cache of Magento is intended and mentioned everywhere in Magento documentation that it should be used only in development environment. It shouldn't be used in production. In production, they insist on using varnish because there's a lot of benefits of using it, including actually, let's say, loading your menu through ESI include, so it's not rendering on every page. Unfortunately, in Magento there is a bug that ESI include still gets rendered within a page, but it's not shown during the render process because it's replaced with a tag, but the block is still rendered. So this is a little bit of a problem, but I hope I will finally find a time to make it a proper extension that removes that rendering process. Okay, so what do we have here as well? We have here a homepage. So homepage is a very nice number of requests, as you see, like 555. That's a very round and nice number. And looks like we have this potato compressor. I think we've seen this one before on the show. I think it was one of the first episodes with some website. I don't remember. I don't recall exactly which one, but there was something related to the merging process.
Yeah, I think we seen potato once before.
Oh no, sorry. I've seen it in one of my customers' shops. So in general, remove potato compressor at all. Like it doesn't give you any benefit. You better use either magepack or baler. So avoid using this one. As you see, like through all of the time spent on the homepage, this one takes the biggest chunk, like 15 seconds from the 26 seconds of rendering time.
So people are looking at Lighthouse scores or these benchmarks, these synthetic benchmarks or scores, and they're like, oh, we need to install a compressor and get our scores up. But when they do that, they add all this extra server overhead on every page request, so their time to first byte suffers.
You know what's the biggest problem with measuring those scores? Like they're not clearing your server cache when you run them, right? So they're running in your browser. Like they load the page, like you visited the page and then you click audit this page or run a Lighthouse profile on it. And this Lighthouse profile will get executed only on a cached version of the page already, because you already visited this page before. So when you execute it, you don't see reports about very slow time to first byte. And here is definitely like if they would execute it on uncached backend page, they would be disappointed in their Lighthouse score. But
yeah,
but in general, like you cannot achieve a good front-end performance just by installing some extension. This is a magic pill that a lot of extension developers try to sell you, but usually like extension doesn't know about your theme performance issues. It doesn't know the best way to pack your theme. Like there is magepack that runs a real browser in order to find all the JavaScript files that are included on your page and then bundle them together per page type. This kind of works almost enough to make it work, but it still requires your developer to execute it against the development environment and then commit it into your repository and push it to production in such a way. Like you cannot run magepack on production because, you need to have an access to the code base and you need to be able to execute a headless browser like Chrome.
Oh yeah, it is. It's I just saw it again the other day, and now I can't. It wasn't Phantom.js, but I can't think of what it was, even though I just saw it.
It was Chrome.
It's
so it's headless version of Chrome, I think.
No, it's something else. Let me see.
Puppeteer? Puppeteer maybe.
Puppeteer. That's it. It's Puppeteer.
Yeah, but I think Puppeteer is using in the end either Phantom.js or headless Chrome. So it's just a tool to communicate with those browsers. So yeah, in general, like
you're right. Headless Chrome, Node.js.
Yeah. So basically, any kind of front-end optimizations you perform on a render time of the page in a backend is never going to be efficient, because you could do this process during the deployment phase of your project.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to do it at the runtime. And any extension you install will always do it at the runtime, because usually it expects a person who just installs Magento and doesn't know how to do a deployment process to have this extension working for them. So if you are have a capability to use some kind of deployment tool you better add it into your deployment pipeline, and like magepack or baler or anything else that may be on the market. We don't know. It's always changing, right?
It is. It really. It's like the flavor of the week, but that's JavaScript for you, I guess. Do agencies? So a lot of these stores aren't managed by the store owners. They have an agency or they have a developer, and then the agency and the developer will have their own build and deploy probably somewhere else. Now we're building tools for that here, but I'm wondering, do agencies and developers consider those deployment tools proprietary? So like if the merchant leaves the contract with the agency, they have the code and the source probably, but do they actually have the whole build process? I'm not sure.
I think it depends how merchant actually set up the process with the agency, because I know at least a couple of customers. Yes, some of them, let's say, depend on internal agency procedures, because let's say agency maintains their own CI/CD licenses. Like they maintain own set of AWS servers to spin up integration environments, because there is a bunch of costs involved, of course, with CI/CD, and sometimes merchants don't want to invest in it if they, let's say, just hired an agency and they spent money on the agency. However, the price actually of maintaining it themselves is not that hard. As soon as you ask someone to build for you a pipeline and make it working, just maintaining it doesn't take much of your time. And there's already a lot of, I think, tools available in the market. Like there's also Mage Deploy available that you can just integrate into your project easily. I know a couple of agencies, for instance, Elgatos from the Netherlands. They keep their deployment tool together with the project. So within a project repository, you have complete deployment scripts and ways how you, let's say, spin up your staging environment, how you spin up your development environment, and how you spin up your production environment. So everything lives together with the repository. Of course, it doesn't have live accesses to the servers.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So if the customer leaves the agency, is that IP then assigned to the customer? It seems like it gets a little bit weird where the IP rights begin and end, and do the customers even really how much of the code to the customers own? Do they just own the end artifact, or do they actually own the whole build?
I had actually a customer who left an agency and switched to another one. And this was like they were leaving one of the biggest agencies in Magento ecosystem and were switching to a smaller one. And for them, yes, it was a lot of struggle to get it, but they even had to sign a lot of waivers, legal waivers, in order to tell that, hey, we understand that we actually take responsibility of the code. However, it's weird, like when you spend, let's say, €500,000 on your project, and you are not happy with your agency, and you actually want to hire some other company to work with it, and then you have to fight for the code that you've spent so much money on. Like this is just ridiculous, like sometimes I feel like that agencies are spending more money on their lawyers than spending more money on their developers, actually.
And I would imagine the next agency is going to say, well, no, that's not very good. We need to redo that, or we'll use our own. And then,
but luckily for this customer, like I helped them to properly get away with it. So they switched to a new agency and they're happy right now. Like they're selling stuff because that agency, they locked them in their hosting environment.
Ooh.
Even like this was very tricky stuff, like I'm not gonna name a agency or a customer, but like those practices, they are kind of very gray, in a very gray area, and I really don't understand like how you can build your Magento projects in such a way that you lock in customer completely, you kind of remove all the oxygen. So if customer decides to go, they have no other way except like work with you. So
Yeah.
this is complete nonsense in my opinion.
I would never use and I don't know. I don't think I guess some people would say I'm biased, but I firmly against using agencies hosting because you are really, really locked into the agency at that point. I think now some of them are like they'll give you or you give them rights to their AWS account. So technically, like the stuff's in your AWS account. That's not so bad, but still, I wouldn't.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting topic. I think it makes sense maybe to dedicate someday a show. Maybe invite some merchant and talk about what was the best way, merchant or in an agency, and talk about different ways how would you deploy your Magento project, because I think there is a lot of merchants who are logged in right now into their solution providers, and they don't know any better because they can't compare it. They can't have anyone else. Like when you just hosted your agency, you never know, is it efficient, the implementations that you have or not? Because if, let's say, you're hosted at MageMojo, at Byte, at Nexus, then you will see at least some kind of information from support, where support, like you can contact support and say, hey, we have an issue with customers not able to go through the checkout process. And then they say, hey, but did you know, like, you have this thing happening in the background right now that actually locks all your database?
Yeah, these queries are locking up. Look.
Yeah, and this is a result of that one and that one. So
that's an
contact your agency
to
get fixed code. Yeah, to fix the code and so on.
We don't never get this. We see that a lot. We don't see that a lot.
Yeah, so basically, right, if you're logged in with agency hosting, you are completely locked out of the whole transparency of the system. So, like, you are never going to be able to, have complete understanding what's happening. So, yeah. Let's go back and take a look at other pages. So, actually, we didn't take a look at everything. Like, this merging process, it takes a lot of time, but there is also a big chunk of time spent here as well. All right, so when we render homepage, and there is a lot of product sliders that are inefficient. As you see here, there is a bunch of them. There is also reviews. Magento catalog product load. So there is some kind of reviews functionality that also loads product in a loop. And it was on the homepage, right? Was it homepage? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, it was a homepage. So this part of the page is taking a lot to render as well, like the whole second, because it loads every single product separately. However, we don't see all the product load process here, because probably the product was already loaded in previous blocks here. Like, we don't see all the queries. But here as well, for instance, we see again the same thing with sliders that take a lot of time to execute, and there is some kind of issues actually with standard Magento. For instance, here, oh no, wait a second, this is not standard Magento.
No, Abbacus product labels.
This is kind of product labels extension. So as you see here, product labels to HTML, and they took group product and they take price, but could be also that maybe it's not an issue with the extension, but maybe it's also a core issue, because extension maybe just uses an available API for retrieving the price on a product list. And Magento Core, for instance, for a group product, will take all the assigned simple products of the group product in order to find the minimal available price of a product to show. So let's just go on homepage and just take a quick look here. So if I go, let's say here, into Ant control. Yeah, so this is a group product. You see, like, they have two different variations, like, I don't know what is 320Z. It's, I know the gallon is something like almost like 4 liters, right? So this is a big bottle. And this one is probably smaller. Oh, it's almost 1 liter. Yeah. Okay, I see. So you see here, there is two products on this product level, but in order for Magento to show you the price here, as well as showing probably some label, because there is some label functionality that's built in. It tries to get this price data and try to render this information here. Yeah, where is this profile? I think it is here. So here I see, for instance, that there is some kind of price retrieval happening through the group product final price model. And then, yeah, the same thing happens for every single product over here, actually. So for every group product, there is going to be a retrieval of this minimal price, and it actually results in a slower access of the page. So generally what you can do here, you can change the way how Magento shows this data on the product listings by preloading the data from index, because Magento already has a minimal price of a group product in a price index. And this is just a problem of Magento not using this data from the price index on own price resolvers on product lists. However, they can write a plugin around the price resolver and can check if product already has this data, just return this data instead of going through the standard resolver. Otherwise, fall back to the standard resolver. Shouldn't be a complex customization for them to do. Then there is another one. So we see another check for the group product price. So basically, what this price thing, why this price thing is happening, because they probably have some kind of sale label that showed on a page, like, hey, is this product on sale? And it just compares the minimal price with the maximum price. However, the issue is here that actually for group product, there is no other price than minimal price of a simple product. Like there is no special price for group product, because it just picks the minimum value that is available from the list of all the products that are assigned to it. So probably either they have to remove this logic from the extension, or they need to fix an issue with the core of Magento. So yeah, mostly it's labels. So the labels are affecting the rendering time of this product sliders, and yeah, this slows down a lot. And then,
have you seen a better labels extension?
I think I never seen any good labels extension.
Yeah,
but mostly I think the problem is here that label extension tries to satisfy as much use cases as possible. Like they sell not based on their performance, they sell based on the amount of features they have. Like, hey, we have new product feature, we have sale product feature, we have this label and that label. However, majority of merchants are using labels just because they want to define some label from a dropdown on a product level and just show it on a product itself. They don't use usually these automated things. And majority of solution partners actually can implement label extension very easily, just by creating a drop-down attribute on a product level and then just rendering a label based on this drop-down attribute value on the front end, right? So you don't need a lot of development time to implement it. Even a front-end developer can create it. Like it just retrieves the data from a product. The only thing for which the backend developer is needed is actually just create a setup script to create this new attribute. But you can even create it on a live store in a database, not in a database, in admin panel, and you can set that this attribute should be used in product listing, and then the data of this attribute automatically is going to be available on the front end. So you don't need to worry a lot about it as a front end developer, and it's going to be much more performant than like having the extension that installs on template and probably also installs a bunch of own JavaScript and CSS that is adding to the front-end performance as well. So here we have reviews, and from the reviews, I see that every single review that is shown on the homepage. Let's see where those reviews are. Probably this block, right?
That looks like an image.
Yeah, so there's even no product, to click on. You see?
Yeah, that's weird. Are they generating those images from some text? Why wouldn't you just put images in a slider for that? I don't.
This is not an image. It's a text, I think. Yeah, it's a text.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, so it is a text. The problem is that it still loads here the whole product, and it actually executes a bunch of irrelevant things. Like if you are loading a review, you don't need product at all. If you just want to show the reviews. So this is probably another extension maybe used. Yeah, so here you see it. Abbacus widget block reviews. So they probably use an extension because it provides you possibility, let's say, to show some random product reviews, but they don't use part from this extension that's related to products. And this products part is actually does bunch of product loads in a loop. So what they need to do, either write the functionality themselves or remove these loads completely because they don't use even product data in a template. So if they don't use product data in a template, it doesn't make sense to load it at all. Okay, here is something bad. They're doing an HTTP call to shopper approved feeds.
Oh no, we use shopperapproved, and on our new site, I was working with their API, and I can tell you it goes down a lot. It went down several times just in a week that I was working with it, and it's slow. You do not want that in your. Eesh.
So this is probably something related to some block or something like that. Yeah, so here it is. So the shopper approved, this is something related to this page, right?
Well, that's the, yeah, okay, so that's the little widget thing. Yeah.
However, why do they show it 2 times? So
I don't know. Why are they curling it instead of just using JS to get it later on after load or whatever?
So this is probably shown on every single page because it's a part of the footer. So this adds a lot of load on a page, and you have to make sure that you don't do it. If you need to load something from shopper approved, do it in a background, store the data in a database, and then just load it locally. Like you don't need to do it.
Yeah, that's what we did. We have a cron that gets it once a day into a JSON file, and then we read the JSON file into the page.
Yeah, because this one doesn't make sense. And this is probably some kind of an extension. So they just installed an extension, and this extension from Engine 23 shopper approved is actually doing it. So
that's terrible.
and then yeah, that's a bunch of those issues. Let's take a look also at the beginning of the page, because there's a bunch of stuff as well, like tracking code for the email. This looks weird. This takes like 2.2 half seconds. So this looks like there is some kind of an issue with the cache. Well, let's reprofile this page again. Let's just click profile all requests. Yeah, so let's refresh first the page to make sure you know. Oh, the tab just crashed. Why is the tab just crashed?
You were on Ubuntu and your tab crashed too. Firefox thing, I guess.
Yeah, but it was... Yeah, I just installed a different distribution with a newer Firefox version, but yeah, this is weird. Okay, let's take a look at this one. So let's profile all requests. And I'm gonna add here 123, 123.
We're finding some new and interesting things in this one.
Sorry?
So we're finding some new and interesting things in this one.
Yeah, but I think like maybe they have just some issues with the cache, or maybe it could be possible that there is some extensions that clears the cache every minute. I remember there was some customers who were reporting that their configuration cache has never been properly working. So let's take a look at their profile. So yeah, let's stop profiling and let's go into this one.
What would you recommend as the best way to see if caches are working properly and not being cleared constantly or being used properly?
Yeah, this is kind of hard to track because yeah, you have to specifically do it yourself manually. Okay, so this, I think I opened the wrong page here. I think I opened this newsletter pop-up request. So here is the one, the homepage. So again, 555 database queries. Let's see if this configuration thing is loaded again. And yeah, it's loaded again. So if I do enable this one again, profile all request, record, and add a couple of more numbers. Let's see what will happen.
I mean, that's the thing. Customers think that, okay, my cache, once you hit it once, it's going to be there and it's going to be warm. And no, like there's a lot of events that happen that clear cache. We see it all the time. Cache is constantly clearing. And then the worst is they'll say, all right, well, let me set up a cache warmer. They'll set up like Amnesty FPC or whatever, and they'll just blast the site constantly all day, like trying to keep caches warm.
Yes, this is the worst thing that could probably happen to your store. You know, like
in our opinion, yeah.
I wrote a long time ago an article where I was describing issues with the performance optimizations and how developers actually try to tackle it. And one of the things that the most common misconception is that cache is for performance. Cache is not for performance; it's for scaling. It's when you have to handle more users than you usually can with your store. If you rely on the cache in order to optimize your page load time, it's a bad practice because there is so many uncached pages that your visitors will hit that in the end there is really no benefit of actually caching.
Exactly. We've seen many instances where the more orders that go through, the more cache is cleared, so the less helpful it actually is, and it just falls apart quicker.
Yeah, so let's see how it goes now. Again, you see, it's again doing the same thing with the configuration cache. So looks like they have configuration cache disabled. So this is kind of a quick fix.
Why? I wonder why.
Or it could be possible that this functionality maybe accesses some uncached variation of a cache, you know? But I highly doubt it, because it looks like it's just a standard system configuration. Yeah, it's a standard Magento system configuration. And looks like, yeah, they don't have caches enabled. So in general, like if they have a lot of concurrent visitors, this one will get worse, because Magento uses locking in order to prevent generation of new pages while the cache is being generated. So it means, like, if multiple customers hit uncached page in Magento, and each of this page is going to generate a configuration cache, it means that only one of them concurrently will be able to respond, while others will wait till they get a queue to generate own cache. However, because the cache is disabled, the generated cache is never preserved. So it just one customer per eternity, you know, like it's gonna be very hard to do it. So they need to enable configuration cache. This is just misconfiguration in Magento. Let's see. Did they complain about any other page?
Let me check. Yeah, I think they had some checkout issues as well. Checkout issues.
You were talking about constantly loading this stuff, so I think they see issues in checkout and not here, because here, for instance, they have full page cache enabled, right? And
they should.
It might be just you know, I'm just thinking, like, yeah, if they don't have configuration cache enabled, that's why probably they have issue with the checkout, because the cache tries to generate itself, so the page never finishes loading. So a lot of concurrent requests are happening.
Inconsistent. That would be an inconsistent. They say it will load and spin inconsistently. So if you're locking to try to generate config cache with other users on the site, yes, that's probably very inconsistent.
Yeah. So I think that's what the problems that they have. I just confirmed with a bunch of profiles that the cache is never used for configuration. So it means they just need to enable it in their admin panel.
Yeah, I'll ask support to check and see. And
in general, you know what would I do? I would revisit the story later when they fix this issue, because right now, like, it's impossible really to give any valuable advice, because there is so many just common performance issues related to the cache, related to the JavaScript optimizers, you know, and HTTP calls. I think it's already gonna take a lot of time for them to work on, because if we go right now into the category page, it's also hard to profile it because we don't have varnish enabled. So, you know, like, it's kind of, we have to do tricks in order to profile the website. So I think we already spent quite a lot of time on it today.
Yeah, we have a service that checks store owners' stores for common performance misconfigurations, and cache is one of them. So they should be receiving nag emails from us that says, "Hey, like, you're missing these caches. Please enable these caches." And we even have it part of our terms of service as a requirement. Like, if this is a production site, we require people to have those enabled and working.
But
I ping support to see if it's actually enabled, because I'm curious if it is enabled, but it's just not working properly.
And it could be possible also that some extension or some module intentionally disables caching, you know? And then this is very funny then, you know, like. And in Magento, the funny thing is actually you can disable at runtime, you can disable cache. So, let's say you can create an observer that will at runtime say, hey, disable this type of cache, and Magento just won't use this cache at the runtime.
Yeah, so what would you do then? Grep the code base for a string that's like cache enabled false, or?
Yeah, you only can do it by installing another extensions that will check after the page is rendered which caches has been enabled,
Extensions watching other extensions. It's like I got lawyers watching other lawyers.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy, right? So, but there's no way you can do it, just from observing database, because you can do so many things just by running a code within Magento codebase, that will change so many things. System is so customizable that it's good that it's customizable. Like, it allows people to build amazing things with Magento. However, at the same time, like, you can't rely just on the data in order to make sure, that everything is configured properly.
So our support shows all the caches are enabled. Bin Magento cache status, config, layout, block HTML, reflection, dbddl, compile, config, EAV, customer notifications, config integration API, Google product, full page, config web service, translate, fishpig, WordPress, and WP GTM category is all true.
But then why do we see that it's actually disabled? Because
that's a good question.
That's quite weird. Either, or maybe they actually specify the wrong Redis configuration. However, then, full page cache would still work, because probably for full page cache, maybe they specified the correct configuration, but maybe for the main cache storage, they didn't specify correct configuration.
Yeah, I'm telling them to check the Redis config now. Sometimes people do that. They'll do a Redis config, but they'll put like an array. They'll be off in the array or something.
Yeah, so this one could be a problem. And in general,
maybe,
it's. I think that's all for today for this customer. We would love to take a look at your store as soon as these basic issues are getting fixed, and then we can dive deep more into the details. But definitely, like, the checkout issues that they described sounds reasonable if you consider that the configuration cache is not working.
Yeah, yep, that would do it. Okay, yeah, I have support checking the Redis config, just going over it. This is an easy thing to miss if it's off, if there's an array offset or something in there that's wrong. They'll look at it, think it looks right. Systems will detect that it's right, but it'll be misfiring. But yeah, if that's okay, then it must be something in another extension somewhere that's triggering it.
Otherwise, then we'll have really to get some developers to investigate why it happens, why their cache is not working at all, if it's not misconfiguration. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining the show. Until the next time, feel free to submit your stores for review at magemojo, as well as at litl@gmail.com, right?
Yep.
Or it's loadintheloop@gmail.com.
litl@gmail.com, or no, litl@magemojo.com, and loadintheloop on Twitter. And that's why we link in the show notes, because we're unreliable.
So take a look at the show notes and submit your stores for review. And if you are not hosted at MageMojo, make sure that you have Blackfire installed, and we will provide you with the keys for the show that were provided very nicely by Blackfire that are
thank you,
sponsoring the show. Yeah, thank you very much. And till the next week. Or, sorry, not the next week, in 2 weeks. Yeah, see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.